Murphy, Schiller & Wilks is formed with a simple purpose in mind, serving as the one-stop shop for the legal needs of developers, lenders, and others in the commercial real estate industry. Based in Newark, the firm's attorneys represent clients in the most complex real estate transactions and land development proceedings, as well as property taxation, environmental and real estate litigation matters, and in the acquisition, sale, and leasing of all real estate asset types throughout the country. Their attorneys have broad private and public sector experience coming from top national law firms and high-level governmental positions. Through the development of individualized client-focused strategies, their team works tirelessly to create a blueprint for success and advance their clients' interests in every matter. To learn more, head to murphyllp.com or give them a call at 973-877-6984.
Driving on this road feels like forever.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Greetings from the Garden State. I'm your host, Mike Ham. We are here in Newark, New Jersey today at Ironbound Boxing with Iron Mike Steadman. Iron Mike, what's up, dude?
What's up, man? Thanks for
doing?
coming to visit us in Newark.
Absolutely.
This is cool.
You know what's crazy? And so I live in Morristown, so maybe 30 minutes from here. This is our first Newark-based episode.
Oh, wow.
Which I find shocking. At one point, we're 60 at the time of this recording, 64, 65 episodes in, and when I looked back through it, I was like, shit, we haven't gone to Newark once.
You got to come back, man. We got some amazing people here, some amazing brands. You see I'm rocking the Newark Project.
Yeah.
Y'all can't see it right there. It's actually pronounced Newark. Real dope entrepreneur named Gabe.
Okay.
Has an amazing online brand that really represents, the city of Newark. So obviously you're rocking, Greetings from the Garden State.
Right, you got to
take pride here locally.
Absolutely.
Alex, my man at ODR Studios, and he's doing some amazing brand work and stuff there. So really appreciate you coming to visit us down here in the Brick City.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my clients from my actual full-time job life was the one that kind of initially connected us, which was kind of cool because now it's starting to seep into every aspect of my life. But this place is awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is really cool. And to just to be transparent, I've only ever taken one boxing class in my entire life. So I'm not great at it, but luckily we're not going to just do anything. So that's cool.
Yeah. Most people, it's funny. A lot of times people say, yeah, I used to box with my dad or whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah, come to the gym.
Yeah.
And they step in the ring. I'm like, you've never been professionally trained.
No.
And I don't mean professionally trained like you're going to be a pro, but
Sure.
just we're elite amateur boxing coaches. This is what we do. And you can just tell somebody that's really been in the gym.
Yeah.
And there's this nostalgia with boxing, I feel like. So many people want to do it to get in shape. They want to learn the grit and all that other stuff, but they want to do it without geting hit in the face.
Which I think is the number one.
It's like
Didn't Mike Tyson say that? Everyone's
Yeah.
got a plan to get punched in the face. So I did the class at UFC Hoboken.
Okay.
And so we did a boxing class. My friend Courtney came and did it with me. Granted, we were recording it the whole time because content, And but I was gassed after it. And I do CrossFit and shit like that too.
Yeah, I do CrossFit too.
Oh, nice.
That's my jam.
We have way more in common than
I've been doing CrossFit since 2012, and I tell people I feel like I have to battle demon every day to go to the gym.
Yeah.
Because as an entrepreneur, I know once I get up, it's off to the races. And so getting that little extra rest, but it's important for me to make sure I'm taking care of myself too.
Yeah.
But I love CrossFit. I train at a rival CrossFit here in Newark. I trained at Gorilla Fitness before these guys launched. So I've been doing CrossFit forever. It's
awesome.
great.
Yeah, no, I love that. All right, so let's finally learn a little bit about you.
Yep.
So are you from New Jersey originally?
I am not from New Jersey. I'm actually from Bryan, College Station, Texas.
Okay.
I had an opportunity to go to the Naval Academy, and while I was at the Naval Academy, I got sent to Newark for an internship at St. Benedict's Prep.
Okay.
The school reached out to the Naval Academy requesting it to send black midshipmen to mentor its students. For those that don't know, St. Benedict's is at the time, it was an all-boys school here in downtown Newark. 90% of the kids were black and Latino, and they were looking for role models and mentors to teach leadership and stuff. And so being raised in a single-parent home in Texas, grew up without a father, that really appealed to me.
Yeah.
And so I came and just fell in love with Newark, through that internship. So much so, I came back the next year and interned with Steve Adubato at the Northward Center.
Yep.
And so I made the decision that when I was going to get out of the military, I'd relocate to Newark and start a free boxing program.
Yeah. Wow, that's insane. So, was boxing always something that was part of your life?
It was not.
No.
So while at Navy, I got exposed to amateur boxing.
Yep.
Ended up being pretty good at it. Was a 3-time national boxing champ. 2-time most valuable boxer, captain of my boxing team. Spent a lot of time training in inner city boxing gyms in Baltimore, D.C., and New York City. And I've always was bothered by the fact that a lot of young men and women inside these programs felt like their only option was to turn pro or go to the streets. Unlike me and my teammates from the Naval Academy or West Point or Air Force Academy,
Sure.
all these military academies, they have competitive boxing programs. But at the end of the day, the goal is not to be a professional boxer.
Right.
It's to lead sailors, Marines, soldiers, airmen. And so we graduate from a world-class institution. We serve our country as officers in the military, and then we transition out and start our own businesses, work in corporate America, go to graduate school, etc. And so I felt like it was a disservice that you've got all these young men and women, like my man Keith Cologne over here, training, who feel like that they're very limited. Like, boxing is so much more than just becoming a pro, right?
Yeah.
It's grit. It teaches you leadership. Some people golf. We play we box, right?
Yeah.
And so how do I bring that kind of boxing to the inner city? And so through my experience at St. Benedict's, after my time in the Marines, I deployed to Afghanistan, Japan, and the Philippines. Felt like I did everything I was supposed to do, and I had this crazy vision for essentially rebuilding a version of the Navy boxing program that I had.
Yeah.
Never had to pay for boxing. So I wanted to bring that here. And like one of our beliefs is like kids shouldn't have to pay for boxing, particularly the kids we serve in this community.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're gonna touch on that more in our second segment. But I do want to kind of go back on the Naval Academy stuff. Like, what was that experience like? Because I remember, so when I was in high school, so I played baseball all through college. And
Where'd you go to school?
College in New Jersey, so
Nice.
kind of outside of Trenton. And so when I was playing with a team based out of D.C. between my junior and senior years in high school, and we did a weekend tournament at Annapolis, and I was during plebe week, and I remember going through there, and I was like, holy shit, they're just fucking abusing these kids.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it just seemed like such a cool, but it was very cool, being on the field and just the whole atmosphere and the environment that you were in was just, it was insane. So I just want to get more from, your firsthand experience of what it was all about.
Man, I loved it. It was really hard.
Yeah.
Because one, from an academic perspective, I call some of these people uncommon humans. These are men and women sometimes that, they'll be star of their football team,
Yeah.
right? And they're also going to be a Navy SEAL, and they also have a 4.0, and that's the environment you're in.
Yeah.
And so once you're going to Annapolis, right, you could be Mr. 2.0 sitting in class with Mr. 4.0 on the academic side of the house, and so that was really challenging for me because academics was never really my strong point. I
Right.
just persevered through grit and resilience, and I wanted to be an officer, and so I felt like Annapolis was the best place for me to do that because it gave so many options. But the older I get, when you're younger, you think, oh, you made it to the Naval Academy. Everybody looks at you like you're successful,
Yeah.
like you've made it.
Right.
But there's still a whole bunch of life to live. But one of the things I always appreciate about Annapolis is that I have relationships now that I've been having for 15 years.
That's really cool.
And so many people go to college. Yeah, you got your college roommates and stuff, but you don't really feel that connection with your classmates. Unlike those of us that go to service academies, we've built up this rapport with each other for years.
Yeah.
So, you go to the Naval Academy together, then you serve in the military, and you just kind of stay in contact and stuff. And so I realize how powerful it is to have those relationships that are so entrenched at a time now, especially with all this talk about mental health, people are lonely and stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like I always have my crew to go back to.
Right. And so after the Naval Academy, because obviously you have to do your service time.
Yep.
Right. And how long is it? 5 years?
5 years.
5 years. And you were a Marine during that time.
Yeah, so I was a Marine Infantry Officer.
Okay.
So I was with a unit out of Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. That's who I deployed with to Afghanistan in January of 2012. That same unit I deployed to Japan and the Philippines in 2014.
Okay. Yeah. So when you were making, so I was telling you a little bit before, back in November, we did our mini veterans bonus series. And so I find it very interesting to kind of see that progression from the transition almost from life in the military to life out of the military. And was that an easy thing for you to do, or was it something that you kind of went back and forth on, how long you were actually going to serve?
So when I first went in, I thought that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I was telling somebody about this the other day. I'm really driven by identities that I want to have. So being a podcaster, right? I produce podcasts as well. And I remember when I was I want to be like that, right? Well, for me, it was I want to be a Marine Infantry Officer. And then you get to do it. Now you're an infantry officer. And just through some experiences, like going to war wasn't as glamorous as most people make it out to be.
Doesn't seem like it, yeah.
Being in the military is very hard too, because I have such a dynamic personality that I don't really fit inside a square hole.
Yeah, I could
And
tell.
the Marine Corps is very much like this, and so there was a little tension there.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like once I made the decision to transition out, I felt like comfortable enough with myself that I had done everything that was right. Like I said, raised in a single-parent home, still went to college, still went to an amazing university, had the credentials of being an officer in the military. I felt like I had done enough to risk following a passion. So I wanted to come to Newark and start that boxing program, and I had a relatively smooth transition. I took a job working at St. Benedict's Prep. I ran the residence hall for 3 years as a residential housing director, which means I lived in a giant house with 70 teenage boys as a house parent.
God bless. Yeah.
And so in the Marine Corps, right, I led platoons.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden now you're in Newark, and it's a platoon, but it's young men.
Right.
And it reminded me a lot of the infantry. They were just like less developed, They're doing dumb stuff like smoking weed and talking back and, all that other stuff. And so that was a real smooth transition for me. And the other aspect of it was once I got in Newark, I immediately started teaching boxing. And so that job at St. Benedict's, which was nice about it, was I worked it out to where I got to coach boxing, and my job was really in the evening. So I had the day to myself. So I told my CrossFit, the guys in my first CrossFit gym, at the time it's called CrossFit Silwar. They've closed it down, and now they run a fitness app called Softfleet. But we're really close. And one of the founders is named Brent Fish. And I remember telling him when I was transitioning out, I was like, man, I just want to wear board shorts, eat bacon, and drink coffee. And literally at St. Benedict's, that's what I did.
Yeah.
I got up every morning in my little workout board shorts. I drank coffee, ate bacon and eggs, and I had a blast. And so honestly, I was a veteran, but I never identified as that veteran community.
Yep.
At that time, I was just the guy in Newark doing my thing, and I didn't get reconnected until I started pursuing entrepreneurship.
Yeah. So what was it about Newark? So you come here for that internship that first time, and what was it? I know you said that you had you felt a connection with a lot of kids that were going to that school, but what was it? Was there more to the city about what? Because I would imagine where you're from in Texas is not like this.
No, it's not like this.
Yeah.
It's not like this in Annapolis either.
Exactly.
Annapolis, they got boat shoes and crabs. You know what I mean?
Crab cakes and football.
Crab cakes and football is great. And now I find myself picking up the lingo. I'm like, you know what I mean? My guy, what's up? But for me, it was a couple things. One, St. Benedict's. I had never seen a private school that catered to young men of color. That was something that just blew me away, because the Naval Academy was still like a culture shock, right? And so to find that in Newark, there was a headmaster. The headmaster was still there, Father Edwin Leahy. So his story really appealed to me. Was a monk at the monastery. The Newark riots happened in '67.
Yep.
A lot of the monastery left because overnight Newark shifted. St. Benedict's started to take, and St. Benedict's was it is a very prestigious school, but back then you had a lot of immigrants, and so there was this tension when they started letting more black and brown kids into the school.
Right.
And some monks didn't like that. Well, Father Edwin, the school closed down, and Father Edwin reopened it after it's like a 23-year-old monk. So he's like a legend there and done that. So that story really appealed to me. And the other thing was, I just remember coming into the city, seeing the way your police officers were dressed. They had the little motorcycle cops, and it was like Gotham. It literally was like Gotham City.
Yeah.
And it was such a contrast to what I was used to.
Yeah.
And they took me out to eat for that internship. They were taking us to the Ironbound. We're ordering sangria and we're eating paella and that stuff I had never experienced before. So it was such a different culture. And I knew for boxing, right? Boxing thrives in the inner city. I wanted street cred. I didn't want to, and I had to go to somewhere I felt like I could add value.
Sure.
And so I just felt like me being a black Naval Academy grad, Marine officer with a passion for serving inner city kids through boxing, something told me that Newark was the right place for me.
I love that. And it's great because that is a perfect transition into our second segment. So we're going to take our first break of this episode, and we'll be back to talk all about Ironbound Boxing and what it is and who it helps and everything like that. So this is the Greetings from the Garden State podcast. I'm Mike Cam. We're here in Newark, New Jersey today at Ironbound Boxing with Iron Mike Steadman. We'll be right back. The Mayo Performing Arts Center is the heart of arts and entertainment in Morristown, New Jersey. MPAC presents over 200 events annually and is home to an innovative children's arts education program. To see MPAC's upcoming schedule of world-class concerts, stand-up comedy, family shows, and more, head to mayoarts.org or just click the link in our show notes. Bored of going to the same park? Want to try a new local adventure? Well, then check out njspots.com, your home for finding a new spot to discover right here in New Jersey. With dozens of maps to check out, local hiking spots, family-friendly places, and seasonal suggestions, NJ Spots is waiting for you to find somewhere new to explore. That's njspots.com. All right, we're back for segment 2 of this episode of Greetings from the Garden State. I'm your host, Mike Cam. We are here in Newark, New Jersey today at Ironbound Boxing with Mike Steadman. So in the first segment, we learned a little bit about your background and kind of what ultimately led you here to Newark to open up this gym. So can we talk, let's just do like a very basic definition of what Ironbound Boxing is, and then we'll kind of expand from there as we kind of progress through this segment.
Yeah, so Ironbound Boxing is a nonprofit organization based here in Newark, New Jersey. We provide free amateur boxing training, entrepreneur education, and scholarship opportunities to Newark youth and young adults. What does that look like? It looks like on the amateur boxing side of the house, we're here at the legendary Ironbound Boxing Academy, which we launched in 2017. We have an entrepreneur program called Thrive, where we teach our youth how to bootstrap a small business, right? And then over the course of about 4 weeks or so, they submit a business plan, a financial plan, and a personal essay. And then based off those deliverables, we give them a need-based micro grant, anywhere between $500 to $1,000.
That's awesome.
And then last is our scholarship program, to where our amateur boxers here, we give them a scholarship to college, university, or trade school. And last year we gave out $15,000 in scholarship funding. We've given out, let me rephrase this, we've given out $25,000 in scholarship funding. That was our second year giving out the scholarship last year, hence the $15K. And we've given out about $20K in micro grants to young entrepreneurs of color.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love all of that. And so when you first started this, back in 2017, you said, like, what was, I guess maybe the first question I want to ask is, like, how, I guess, do you find the people that you, like, the community that you serve? Like, how do they get involved or, like, get help here or, get involved in the programs that you have?
So mainly through social media. So
Okay.
social media, people reach out. They're constantly searching for boxing gym near me.
Yeah.
That's really the big one. And we're out and about in the community. I walk the beat every day. I snatch kids up off the street. I'm like, yo, come train at the gym. I live right downtown at the Haynes building. So, and before we started this, I was still working at St. Benedict's Prep.
Okay.
And so even to go back, I got out the Marine Corps in 2015. As soon as I got to town, I immediately started training kids in boxing. I started a little boxing team at St. Benedict's, was taking them to train around different gyms in town. Realized that's not a very good business model because I was paying for them to train there. And so I was like, we got to do something better.
Yeah.
Ended up training them in my residence hall, and then, pushing tables and chairs out the way. But eventually, the city of Newark had actually opened up another recreation center on another part of town.
Okay.
And put a free boxing gym in there. And so I would commute to that gym with the kids. I could carry my little 2-seater Dodge Challenger, and it started to grow where it was too much. Like I was limited by the number of kids I could move in the car.
Sure.
And I approached the city of Newark about, hey, I know we've got this free gym here. I think we could open up a free gym on another side of town, somewhere closer to St. Benedict's. If you have the space, I'll fund the gym myself. You don't got to come out of pocket. I'll take care of everything. I just need the space.
Yeah.
And so end up connecting with Obelijah Baraka, who was the manager of recreation at the time, and he hooked us up with this space here, which we flipped into the Ironbound Boxing Academy.
And how long ago was that?
So I got the thumbs up for this space in October of 2016.
Okay.
So
this
I
has
started
been here.
working.
All right.
Yeah,
got
this has been here. This rec center has been around forever,
Yeah.
for ages. But this was not this. We built all of this.
Right.
Came in here, started working on the gym in October 2016. Started training kids in here, a little small group. Within like a few weeks, it was all kids. Kids helped us move the ring. Kids helped us paint the walls. Kids helped us do all this.
Yeah.
But we didn't actually launch the gym until February of 2017.
Yeah, I do love that too, because like the walls and like all the art and everything in here is just really cool and just gives like that vibe that, like, you said the people just want to like be boxing but like not get punched in the face, or like it's like the nostalgia thing of being in like a kind of like a a gritty type place and punching shit. Yeah.
And this here, like a lot of the graffiti and the artwork, the reason we wanted that was because I kind of want to pay homage to Newark. I know Newark has the brick city, but when you think of urban, you think of graffiti and stuff like that. And so I wanted something that felt very Newark. Yeah. And I wanted something that felt very original. And as a brand guy, like I like to stand out. I like to be radically different.
Yeah.
And that's why we really like the graffiti and stuff, and it's really resonated with the kids.
Yeah, for
People
sure.
come in and they're like blown away by the gym.
Yeah, like I just love like this shot, like right down here. It's
Yeah.
just really.
I mapped
really
that out too before.
Yeah.
I was like, we're gonna put the main mural down there. We're gonna do this, and it just worked out, man.
Yeah.
So for anybody that's listening that has an idea for a passion project, it's doable. You're gonna get punched in the face a lot trying to get it off the ground.
Yeah.
But you just gotta keep moving. Just gotta keep moving.
Yeah. So as far as like the actual like as the training, I guess, goes on in here. So like I met Muhammad before, so I'm assuming that he's one of your coaches or.
So he's one of the
trainers or whatever?
coaches. He actually
Okay.
works with a lot of the more elite amateur boxers.
Okay.
So like Keith Cologne up there is on his tear to the Olympics.
Oh, nice.
And so Coach Muhammad works with those. Coach Keith, my partner, he's the head coach. So what he does is he really sets the foundation for our competitive amateur boxing team. We're a team. We're a family. So the kids that come in here tend to want to compete, and they want to compete at a high level. And so what we're able to provide them is free training, badass coaching, community, and equipment.
Yeah.
They don't have to pay for anything. All they got to do is show up, and we
Right.
take care of the rest.
So is it like individual based? Is it like, do you do like classes? How does that?
No,
does
it's
that
like a
work?
team. It's a team base.
Okay, all right.
So
basically
we
do like
come
a
in
team
here.
practice
Everybody
almost.
does their warm up. They
Yeah.
do their shadow boxing. Some will be working on mitts. Some will working on bags, and everybody's kind of got their what they're supposed to be working on.
Yeah.
And then as coaches, we tweak, we refine.
Got it.
Typically spar on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay.
Do a lot of travel sparring, and so we really got it laid out where it's like we have our A team, our B team, our C team, and then that D team. Real wannabes and
Yeah.
stuff. And they all want to be the A team.
Of
You know,
course.
they all want to fight.
Yeah.
And so we got a nice system.
No, it's cool. I love that. And then, so as you're like, working in here and doing all those things, also doing this business thing on the side, I think is not the side, but as a part of like the whole brand that you've kind of built out here, like business. So can we talk a little bit more about that and like kind of do the kids that come through here, are they also part of that, or is that like a separate thing, or they do both? Like, how does that work?
So it's both. When we started that, a couple of things happened. One, a lot of the support we have is through the veteran entrepreneurial community. They're the ones that fund a lot of this, veteran-owned businesses and stuff, et cetera. But when I was starting out, I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
I was just a guy trying to fund a free gym, and all of a sudden I got exposed to these pitch competitions, many of them which I won and got to participate in and stuff. And so every time I get exposed to something new, I'm inclined to want to share it with the kids. Like,
Sure.
hey, I think this would be something cool that you all should get exposed to. And so I'd already had in the back of my mind to do some kind of pitch competition. And then when the pandemic hit and we were forced to close down for about a year and a half, that's when we spun up Thrive to still show we could stay in the fight. We still had impact. And in the process of what was going to be just a pitch competition, I realized, like, you know what? We're not really doing these kids a favor having them pitch a business idea.
Yeah.
They need coaching onto what it takes to launch something. And so I built out this whole curriculum over the course of 4 weeks. And I said to myself, you know what? I want them to feel like, hey, we're going to invest in you, right? And not an investment in the sense of like, we're looking for this big economic
Sure.
return or
Yeah.
you to create this business. And
Shark Tank.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
that. It was more so the fact of like, everybody loves to tell people or entrepreneurs what they should be doing or follow your dreams, but it's another thing to say, hey, I want you to follow your dreams, and oh, by the way, I'm going to invest in you as you make one step towards that. Because what I realized, and even you as like a podcaster, like we've launched podcasts before, right?
Yeah.
Every time you have a hit, everybody assumes like, man, how did you get so good? You didn't see about 5 other shows that didn't gain traction.
Some funny videos of me just like sucking at doing
Correct.
this. Yeah.
And so one of the things I noticed in my circles was, man, I would meet these amazing entrepreneurs, or you see the people on the cover of Fast Company and all this other stuff, and you actually start talking to them, and you realize it's their like 9th venture.
Yeah.
So they've failed, they've crashed and burned, and so the whole thesis behind Thrive was, how do you get kids taking swings at the plate sooner rather than later so they can get those lessons learned, and so that by the time they do step out to really start that business, they already have some practice. They've already launched a product or service, have sold it, and have gotten punched in the face and learned like this is what it means to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So that was the whole premise behind that.
So also kind of going off that you being so involved in a lot of these kids' lives, does that like carry over beyond just them coming in here to the gym or go do the business stuff? Like what's that relationship like?
Oh yeah, it's cool to see me grow in Ironbound and
Yeah.
to see the kids who've been in here like Keith, us grow together. And so, now they have that trusted advisor that they can go. Like, I'm a business coach, legitimately a business coach. I work with guys running $1 million companies. And so for them to have me in here to pick my brain and ask me about stuff, I think it's real impactful for them, and it's real impactful for me to make sure I'm constantly lifting as I climb.
Yeah. No, I love that. Because, I mean, like I said, you're so involved in like a lot of different aspects. I think that's phenomenal. So even like looking into the future, are there ways, because you seem like an ambitious guy, if I'm not mistaken, like are there ways that you see this kind of expanding into something bigger and more and, kind of like that path?
Yeah, my real dream is to build what we're calling the Ironbound Courage Academy. So this is the Ironbound Boxing Academy.
Yep.
The Ironbound Courage Academy is not only going to have a sick boxing gym, but it's going to have a really cool, kick-ass co-working space. Because
I love how you describe this stuff.
The whole way I try to tell people of like, look, we're really good at amateur boxing.
Yeah.
Like really good at grassroots amateur boxing. The pandemic caused us to close down our gym for 1.5 years, and we were still training at the park. And still had tons of kids there. And we can launch grassroots boxing program all day.
Yeah.
And boxing has a certain street cred in Newark, in Patterson, and Trenton, and some of these cities that, like, despite your best intentions, like, yeah, hack the hood sounds like a good idea, but like, not all these kids want to be programmers.
Yeah.
That's too much too soon.
Right.
But they can understand what it means to be a boxer because of the Muhammad Ali's of the world, right?
Sure.
The branding is there.
Yeah.
And so one of the reasons I like the entrepreneurship angle is because we're good at amateur boxing. I'm not good at tutoring. Me and my coaches aren't good at tutoring.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, oh, you got a boxing program. Do you have any tutoring and stuff for kids? It's like, listen, man, there's other organizations out there that do that way better than we do.
Really well.
Like, they do it really well, right? That's not our wheelhouse.
Right.
Teaching entrepreneurship, how to bootstrap a business, especially to underserved founders, i.e. young men and women of color, we're really good at that.
Yeah.
Right? So much so I wrote a book called Black Veteran Entrepreneur, where I walk people how to validate their business model, build their brand, and step into greatness. Now, that audience was primarily for Black veteran entrepreneurs and underserved entrepreneurs in the veteran community, but those principles and lessons apply to every entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's awesome. And a book too. Man, you're just doing all sorts of stuff.
We got a saying, Newark is for hustlers, man. You gotta.
I feel like I'm not doing enough at this point. So that's awesome. And also, like, I think it's interesting too because, like, as this thing continues to grow and it starts like merging more, it just creates like such a great space for people to kind of like maybe not like get out of their current situation, but just kind of like give them a path to do that. And so I know obviously like every day kind of coming in here, I'm sure that's fulfilling in a lot of different ways, but there are like moments over the course of since 2017 where you were just like, hey, like this is why we do this, like a success story, I guess.
Yeah, I got one of our boxers named Enrique, and Enrique has been here from like almost the very beginning. And it's a real hard transition for young men and women that grow up in an environment like Newark. And let's say you're not the best at academics. Now what's next for you? Probably not. If you're not going to college, you're not getting a trade, you're just kind of figuring it out. Cost of living so high.
Yeah. It's
not like you can step out on your own and have your own apartment and stuff. So there's this really weird transitioning phase that's taking place with a lot of them, and they're super vulnerable. They're vulnerable to the streets, they're vulnerable to drugs, they're vulnerable to all that. So Enrique comes in, he's with us early on, and I kept trying to tell him, I'm like, Enrique, man, you gotta be on it, life's coming, it's coming quick. 18 happens, now all of a sudden you graduate high school, what are you doing? Now you gotta find income, you gotta do all this stuff. And so he kind of pulled away from us for a little bit, but he kept following our social media, staying in touch with the gym, and he just came back, right? And now he's been like really, really leaning in, training, and what it does is I think and me and him, I talked about it, it's just a good environment. Like, it's a good environment where you come and you feel like you get to actually work on yourself.
Yeah.
Because in life, you can always feel stuck.
Right.
Like, whether you're an adult or a kid.
Yeah.
But, like, where do kids go to get unstuck? Like, where do they go to build some momentum in their life? And so what I think we've done is we've created that space for them, and they can come here and they can focus on boxing. They have a goal to work towards, getting that first amateur fight. They got people that they can bounce ideas off of that extend well beyond the boxing ring. And so you create that positive environment, that circle of trust that they feel like they don't have otherwise.
Yeah, I love that. And so this is my last question. I should have asked this at the beginning. What are like the age ranges of the kids that you're working with in all these different projects?
So 10 to 22 to train at the gym.
Okay.
In that case, you get that 9-year-old that's right there on the cusp.
Yeah.
And we have some that have been with us since they were like 6 years old, but we've just found that like for the program we're running, we're not babysitters.
Right.
We want to make sure that kids are safe. And sometimes those younger kids, they just need a little bit more attention than we're actually realistically able to give running a boxing gym. So we focus on 10 and 22. And then for our entrepreneurship program, it's really that 16 to 22.
Right. Awesome. All right, so we're going to take our second break. This has been awesome so far. We're going to learn a little bit more about the other stuff that you're doing, and then wrap it up and learn a little bit more like community stuff. So this is the Greens Big Garden State Podcast. I'm Mike Ham. We're here in Newark, New Jersey today at Ironbound Boxing with Mike Steadman. We'll be right back. Minuteman Press Westfield is a full-service printing, mailing, and marketing design firm. They specialize in apparel like the shirt I wore to Podfest 2023, which they screen printed specifically for me. To reach Minuteman Press Westfield for any of your printing needs, call 908-857-4644 or email westfield@minutemanpress.com. All right, we're back for our third and final segment of this episode of Greetings from the Garden State. I'm Mike Ham. We're here in Newark at Ironbound Boxing with Iron Mike Steadman. So first segment learned all about you, kind of your background and leading up to opening Ironbound Boxing. The second segment we learned all about what that is and what it entails and the people that you work with in your community. I know that you do other things, and so I would like to learn like a little bit about what those other things are, because somehow I feel like you have more hours in the day than like me, because you're doing like all these different things, which I think is awesome. So like, what are some of the other stuff that you're involved with?
So I run Ironbound Media, which is a brand strategy and podcast production firm for growth stage veteran-owned businesses. We serve clients all over the United States. I try to tell people I'm local, I live local, but I do business global, right? So like I love traveling. I'm always going out west or somewhere, right? But it's important for me to be based here because this is my tribe. I really enjoy Newark. And so what that really started out was just as a way for me to earn income so I could grow the nonprofit. I've tried a couple of different business models. The first model was a for-profit arm of Ironbound Boxing, teaching boxing to companies in the New York City metro area, clients like WeWork, Spotify, NextJump, Etsy, etc. And we did that for a while and did pretty good. But then the pandemic hit. Businesses fell for primarily two reasons. Number one, no market need, and they ran out of cash. And so virtually overnight, we had no market need for on-site boxing or this. And so I had to shut it down. And so I had to look for new ways to bring in income. Thankfully, a lot of my clients came back online, so we were able to do virtual boxing classes, but I'm not Billy Blanks. I hate sweating on camera, putting on workout music. That's just not my style of boxing. So I was like, get me out of this. And so I had this crazy idea to launch a podcast production company targeting veteran-owned businesses, and I spun it up out of my one-bedroom apartment in downtown Newark. And I was off to the races.
Were you podcasting yourself before that?
I did. So I ended up launching
my... I was going to say, because that would be wild if you're just like podcasting business.
Well, what had happened was I read a lot. I've read over like 350 business books.
Wow.
And I always was bothered by the fact that a lot of the business books I read didn't feature black authors. And so that had already kind of set in the back of my head. And I had always had this idea to write a book called Confessions of a Native Son, sharing my perspectives on race, culture, and business as a black Marine Infantry Officer. And along the way, I was like, you know what if that was a podcast? And so I started doing some research. And so in 2019, I started reading all the podcast books. You know, what's the one? I've read the NPR book. I've read every podcast book. That's what I do. I'm like, I want to be something. Remember what I said about identities? I was like, I want to be a podcaster. Let me read all these books on podcasting. I connected with a podcast network in Brooklyn called Gifted Sounds. And I finally just launched my first podcast, Confessions of a Native Son, a black veteran's perspective on race, culture, and business in February of 2020.
Awesome.
So like February 1st, I launched it. The pandemic happened like a month later. And that podcast was great for me because it allowed me to like communicate what I was feeling and everything. I talked about everything. The gym closing down, feeling like I'm starting over. George Floyd happens. All of a sudden, downloads went because now everybody wanted to hear my perspective on George Floyd. And going back to what I said about the author stuff was, you know, I thought to myself, right, like I'm a big Peter Drucker and Jim Collins fan. Peter Drucker wrote like 30 books on management. They call him the godfather of like management consultant. And then you got Jim Collins, who's wrote like 6 books on like businesses, the good to great and stuff, etc. And I started to wonder, had podcasting been around when they were writing, would they have 30 books or would they have 30 podcasts? And I also started to think to myself, like, what if audio was a way to reach these niche audiences? Because, you know, when you have a group that has been so marginalized from an industry for so long.
Yeah.
Like, even if you did write all these business books catered at underrepresented founders, would it get the same attention as, say, a new media like podcasting?
Right.
And so early on, it was important for me to leverage this platform to teach entrepreneurship to these groups. And so that was the premise behind initially launching Ironbound Media. And then I got some clients, got some more clients, started to bring on a team, and really just poured all into that. And we've since expanded beyond podcasting to brand strategy. So my goal is to be the #1 brand strategist for veteran-owned businesses. It's like, you're a veteran-owned business and you need help with branding, talk to Mike in Ironbound Media. Outside of that, I'm also a professional business coach. So I work with veteran-owned businesses that are stuck in the weeds of the day-to-day. They want to get out of it so they can focus on their most important work. And we do what we call triple value coaching, which is focused on business, life, and self. And so I got connected with a group called the Lion's Pride, and been with them coaching and continuing to grow that. And I wrote my first book.
Yeah.
So it sounds crazy. Y'all like, how does he have time to do all this stuff? Not very well, right? Like, I don't have kids yet. I'm not married. I have a beautiful girlfriend named Simone Gates, and we go vacations. We have a great time.
Yeah.
But I also have a team, and the way I'm kind of setting my life up is, for me, it's important that I show up each and every day and enjoy what it is I do, and that's the North Star for me.
Right.
I had a frat brother who tragically passed away in 2021, and it just reinforced to me how important it is to realize that, like, nothing is given. And so we all only have one life to live. Let's make the most of it. So that's my standard of, like, am I enjoying how I'm spending my time during the day?
Yeah.
Right now, the answer is yes. Podcasting, and going back to identity, being an author, another identity, being a business coach. And so, I don't necessarily think business is all about growth from a monetary perspective. It should also be growth about, like, who do we want to be? And is this platform that we're building, whether it's a business, a podcast, a gym, is it getting us one step closer to that?
Yeah. I love that. This whole episode has been awesome so far. So if people are like listening to this episode, what are ways that they can get involved with the stuff that you have going on? Whether it's, like nonprofits, I'm assuming take donations and stuff like that, or whatever. So like, what are some ways people can do that?
Yeah, well, we're always looking for donors and corporate sponsors for Ironbound Boxing. Super simple. Just go to ironboundboxing.org and you can contact us through there, or you can donate directly through the website. For people that need help with their branding, interested in launching a podcast themselves, or just want to chop it up, you can go to our website, ironboundmedia.com, and reach out to us through there. If you're looking for business coaching, same thing. Just go through Ironbound and shoot me an email, mike@weareironbound.com. I'm the only Iron Mike Steadman on LinkedIn. I'm not hard to find, so head out there as well.
Yeah. It's great. And so are there ways that people can get involved here beyond monetarily, or is that primarily the way?
We're always looking for strategic partners to help us think through, for one, we want to build out this Ironbound Courage Academy.
Yeah.
What needs to happen in order to be able to do that? So continue to build our social network. We'd love to get our kids hooked up with some internships, guys like Keith and some other ones we have in here. But yeah, it's full transparency. It's always hard with nonprofits managing volunteers, managing places for people. But we're still working through a lot of that stuff. But just come talk to us. Maybe we'll figure something out.
Awesome. I love that. And then just to, almost like kind of like retrospective, introspective, whatever it is, like knowing that you wanted to kind of set something like this up back when you were in the Naval Academy and getting yourself all the way to here, have you ever taken a moment to just kind of be like, wow, I actually like did this, and now, because we talked about like future stuff, but sometimes I think it's like almost kind of nice to look back to be like, hey, look how far we built this whole thing.
Yeah, 100%. One of the challenges, though, to be quite frank, is, and I'm just speaking honestly, a lot of high performers, we beat ourselves up.
Right.
So like our standard of, people are always blown away. They're like, Mike, you did this, bro. And I'm like, dude, like, you have no idea. Like, it's all sausage making behind the scenes, but like they haven't fathomed, right? So like in our community, it's real common for people to say, man, you're killing it. Man, you're killing it. And you're like, you ever hear the saying, never meet your heroes?
Yeah.
Well, it's hard when you're your own, like when you know who you are, you know what I mean? Like, you know how you are. They're like, oh man, I need to be more like you. Like, I slept in today till like 9 o'clock.
Right.
Like, you have no idea. And I'm constantly moving the goalposts. And so that's what I struggle with, because like, this is standard for me, right? This is like the day-to-day,
this was supposed to happen.
Exactly. And like, I remember being oh, I want to write a book. I want to publish a book. And the day my books actually arrived in my apartment, I couldn't even really celebrate them. So, because I was focused on something else. I was worried about something happening with Ironbound Media, right?
Right.
And so I struggle sometimes celebrating the wins, which I'm doing a better job at.
Yeah.
And I coach people on how to do that too. So like I finally went to Jamaica. You know, I'm finally about to have a book launch to celebrate the launch of my first book. And, you know, I'm getting there.
Yeah. Yeah, because, I mean, I definitely agree with that. Like, people, even, you know, on my end, and granted, like, I'm doing just this show and whatever, but it's like, hey, like, that's so cool. Like, you know, you've got to this point, or, like, you're crushing it or whatever it is. And it's like, yeah, but, you know, I just kind of like just doing my thing. And, you know, it's like, what's the next episode? Like, what's the next way we're going to try to promote what we're doing? Like, where are we going next? Like, that kind of thing. So so I love that. Can we hit them with the links one more time? Like, where can they go to get more stuff? And
just go to ironboundboxing.org if you'd like to support our nonprofit or get in contact with us. Real simple, ironboundboxing.org. Or if you need help with your brand strategy, visit ironboundmedia.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Iron Mike Steadman. I'm not hard to find.
Yep.
Just reach out, connect, reach out to you.
Yeah.
Give them my email. I'm easy to find.
Yeah. We'll make sure we put all those in the show notes so people can just go click those. So, Mike, this has been awesome. Thank you for having me here. Our first ever Newark episode,
Cool.
which is really great. But, yeah, we'll put that stuff in there. So for everybody listening, check those out. Check it out, everything that Mike has going on. Again, this has been the Greetings from the Garden State podcast. I'll make sure that I put our website, greetingsfromthegardenstate.com, in the show notes as well, so you can go click that. We were here in Newark, New Jersey today at Ironbound Boxing with Iron Mike Steadman. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Amen.